Aces. I can promise you that not all sunglasses are built the same. Rick's Eyewear is crafted for durability, clarity, and style that lasts. And we're so confident that we back ourselves with a 90-day free returns policy just in case they're not a perfect match. Use Aces for 20% off site-wide and find your fit right now at rickseyewear.com.au. Now let's get into the show. Welcome back, everyone. Another episode of Tommy Talks. This week, we are joined by more greatness. Shaun Higgins in the building. Great man. I know you're a busy man, so thank you so much for jumping on. Just for everyone out there, just to remind them how good of a player you were. 3 clubs, 5 prelims. We're going to jump into that. Losing prelims. 260 games, 229 snags. You played for 3 decades, superstars. And I think there's just a lot we can uncover today. So, mate, thanks so much for jumping on.
Mate, Tommy, thanks for having me. This has been a while in the making, over a few beers, starting last year. So
really connected at Jez's Bucks, didn't you? Just in
good.
The corner.
It was
couple
good.
Of quaddies here and there. Couple of shit tips from you. The one that got up, I don't think I got on.
Yeah, we might cover some of that, your punting prowess later on in the show.
One leg quaddies is the key. Mate, let's start off with, what are you doing now? What are you doing post-football?
Yeah, so post-footy, mate, I finished up at the end of 22, which we'll get into, and then had the urge to try something different. I got out of footy altogether for 12 months, got into business, into doing some construction and property work in the modular space. So I'm still doing that full-time. And the last 2 years, jumped back into a part-time coaching role at the Cats, which I'm loving. So it was always a passion to get into coaching. And then at the back end of my career, after playing for 17 years, felt like maybe I get out of the bubble. You know what it's like when you're playing, you're at clubland, wanted to see outside the footy world, got a good opportunity, jumped into that. So it's pretty busy, life's busy, living in Geelong, up to Melbourne each day, and then the Cats game day, including travel. And then 3 young kids as well, so it keeps me on my toes.
That is busy. Just a quick question on post-footy, right? Because I haven't gone back to footy yet, but there's definitely there's a hole in the heart. You don't have that, just that big team of lads and people that you can just get around for the, couple of hours a week and then game day. What did you miss the most when you had the 12-month spell of no footy?
Well, I think it's the same as nearly everyone when they get out of footy. The things, I was done with the playing side of it, like 17 years of playing. I had injuries early in my career. We'll sort of cover off a bit of that. And then at the back end, those injuries flared up again. I was 34, 35, so I was done. So I haven't missed the playing side of it. I was content that my time was up from the playing, but you miss the day-to-day banter, the get in early, have a coffee, the shower time.
What have you been up to, fellas?
Sitting in the sauna, living through the young boys again.
Yeah.
They're the things that you miss. And to be honest, that's why I've loved the game day back at Geelong, because the game day leads to conversations pre-game, conversations post-game, a few beers on interstate trips. You're then touching base with guys throughout the week. That connection with older guys and the younger guys and getting them to try and reach their potential is what I loved at the back end of my career, and spending time with younger guys when I was playing. So that is scratching the itch of that footy environment. And it comes with the best part of just the game day. I'm not having to worry about as a coach.
There's no anxiety, is there?
Yeah, and I don't have to worry about the coding throughout the week and the time that, like the assistants, as you know, mate, they put in so much time. Now I'm busy elsewhere, but the balance that I've got at the moment and the variety means that I love it. And it helps because Geelong, the environment, which we'll go into as well.
Let's just get into it now with Geelong environment before we. For everyone listening and watching, I'm gonna go back to go forward. So we're gonna go through the Dogs, North, and then your back end of your career at the Cats. But while we're on the Cats as a as a coach now, what is it about the environment, man? Like, what is it? Because I remember Simon Lloyd went there. He was my development coach. And he was like, Tommy, you would love it here. And I used to go, and then Jezza moved, and I know a few of the boys through Jezza and everyone else, and it's just. There's something about Geelong that I've already said Tasmania should just be trying to copy whatever Geelong are doing. What is it?
I think it'd be hard to copy because it's actually hard to put into words, and it's not. There's no easy way to explain it. But what it is, it's the best part of 20 years of building. I'm sure through the early days of Bomber and that whole redirecting the club during the 2006 season. I'm sure that started some sort of momentum of what it is today. It then obviously went through the 09 and the 07 and the 09 flags, and then Scotty came there and Scotty put his twist on it. I'm sure in consultation and conjunction with the senior players there at the time, and then Joel and Hawk and these guys carried it through. It's led now, and he'd hate for anyone to say it because he empowers the players, but it's led by Scotty, and I think any environment is created and led from the top. Now you encourage the young guys underneath to drive it, but if the coach or the captain's not creating that environment, I'm sure you've been in scenarios, for and against that it's hard to maintain. And he just empowers his players to give them the most balanced lifestyle that he can and encourage them to play to their strengths. And I think the philosophy would be, if I do that, then I'm going to get more out of them as individuals and the team than I would if we just treated them like children.
Yeah.
So is it all smooth sailing? No. Is it probably more mystique from the outside than it is internally? I'm sure that's the case. But I heard Jezza talk about it a couple of weeks ago, where a lot of it doesn't make sense of how that could possibly, coming from two other clubs, 15 years playing at other clubs, and then going to the Cats for a couple of years. It changed my way of thinking around how there's different ways to do this, both as a player and a coach and an environment within team or outside of footy or whatever it is, that there's different ways that you can skin a cat, and there is other ways to get the best out of someone than just old school, work harder, work harder, work harder. Maybe it's work smarter and create an environment that guys love to come to. There's losses. There's guys that underperform. There's probably misdemeanors off the field that happen, but it gets dealt with in a controlled environment like you would as adults sitting down and move forward. So I'd love to give you the answer and the silver bullet, because every club would be looking for it. But it's just the sum of many parts that come together to create it's a pretty unbelievable culture and results that they've been able to get.
I've got a few answers just from me comparing what other clubs don't do. So first one, I think most clubs are getting better at it. Family, when you see all the kids in the rooms, even in the circle now, I think Collingwood do it a lot. I know Giants are an amazing club, in terms of all that when I was there, but I reckon family was always something. So I reckon the locker room, change room and club, even on the field, you see the kids running around post-game. I reckon Geelong do that really well. I've heard there's a lot of optional days to do your stuff. So when I say your stuff, your work, we'd be very structured. We're at one of my clubs. So it was Pilates this hour, gym.
No, man, I've lived all this too.
So I'm saying all these things where it's to the hour, and if you're late, you get punished, and you're in a meeting with the leadership team, mate, you need to be better, and you're just on edge all week, right? And this is at the start of the week. So speaking to a couple of people at Geelong, it's you have optional days, and in the end, you just do it around when you feel like it. And sometimes you want to sleep in, you do it in the arvo. Sometimes you want to get it out of the way. That's another thing I've noticed. And just more relaxed, and it feels like they get more out of them game day. They're just a couple things that I reckon.
Yeah, so all of that's right. I was very much, and if you speak to anyone that I played with early days, I was anal about
Intense.
all and the training. Mellowed a little bit later in my career, but you only know what you know through early stages. And then when I went to Geelong, I still remember living in Melbourne's a little bit different. Logistically, I was living Bayside. I had to get to North Melbourne. It's a 40-minute commute. It could be an hour if traffic's bad. So I'd leave early. You'd get to the club at 7:30. You'd have breakfast there. I mean, a meeting may not start till 9:30, but I'm still there. Early days in the preseason of first going to Geelong, I was getting there maybe 8 o'clock for a 9. Man, I was the only one in there. And I'm like, where are these guys? But in they stroll, come in when you need to. You know that the meeting starts at 9 o'clock. Now, the one thing that is a mistruth that I hear constantly is that they don't train. And training intensity and the particularly in pre-season and in season, when it's time to knuckle down, they knuckle down. And because it's just, there's no secret to being a good team. You need to work hard and train hard. But you summed it up well. The balance is there. So when you need to be on, you're on. And that might be 3 hours in for pre-season of a hard session. So they don't train any less from an intensity point of view. If anything, they train harder than anything I've seen when they need to train. But their philosophy is, and led by Scotty, if you don't need to be here, I'd rather you be at home or I'd rather you be playing golf. So let's get in, do the work, train harder than anyone else is training.
Yeah.
But if that means we finish at 2:00, then we finish at 2:00. I mean, we've been in environments.
It's when you're losing.
Yeah.
I reckon when you're losing. Oh, actually,
maybe that's the test. That's the test
we were
of
winning. It was still intense, but I felt like there's a good balance in season. But I just reckon, I mean, when you're at North,
there's a lot of wasted time.
When you're at North and you were losing and you went to, because North are, they're still on the way up, but they've been in that, you're elite there. And then you go to Geelong, right? Straight away, successful team. Doesn't matter how you cut it.
Yeah.
Prelim, then they win the flag. We'll get into that. What did you like? What was the one thing that stood out straight away though? We've already dived in a little bit, but where you're like, oh my God, we're doing way too much of that at North, looking back.
Yeah, North was actually a stepping stone closer to Geelong though. Don't forget that when I went to North from the Bulldogs, which was a very young list at that back end time, days were long. Like, the afternoon rotations and you're sitting around and there's weights and then there's touch and then
so the Dogs was the work, like the
Dogs at the back end with a young group was long days. Then I went to North under Brad Scott, obviously similar philosophies to Chris, and they were successful at that time. I came in, they'd played in a preliminary final in 14.
That's right, big Drew Petrie.
Frank the Tank.
Frank the Tank, I still remember that.
I love that environment going to North where Scotty was all about getting the best out of each individual. This is Brad Scott. And creating an environment that if you needed to do weights straight off the track, get in there and do weights. And if you got a family, then go home. Yeah. So that was very new to me. Maybe it transitioned a little bit because North then became a developing side. And that is a juggling act when you transition your list, because what you don't want is young guys coming in thinking that it's a piss take because it's still work to be done. And even at the Cats, young guys coming in like Joel and Hawk, these guys train like animals early days. Now at the back end, you manage a little bit more, but the young guys need to appreciate that this work still needs to be done when you're early. So maybe North, we transitioned into slightly longer days there. So it wasn't as confronting for me going to Geelong, and I had some mates, still do have mates, close mates at Geelong, even when I wasn't playing there. So I was waiting to see how this all worked. The one thing that's caught me by surprise is that you can still get great outcomes doing things different than what is perceived to be the norm or the only way to do it.
Give me an example of that.
Well, that philosophy around the days and the environments that most of us have been in outside in other clubs is the answer's always more. Stephen, you hear it in. I hear it in presses now, right? Like teams that are struggling. We just got to do more. I'm like, really? Like the guys are cooked.
Yeah.
The preseason's long. The meetings are long. The scrutiny now is more than when we first started.
I mean, they got injuries, so it's hard. You need all your troops on the park, but you're right. It's like we need to work harder. It's like we need to get back and hone in on our craft. Yeah. Like you hear that all the time. Because I used to hate how bad's doing touch.
Yeah.
Like 20 minutes with a bloke and you're like, fuck this.
Training hard.
Oh, but like how much better is just playing a game of an actual game where you're getting touch without thinking it. Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some coaches I found like, you got to get him lane work. It's like, come on, man.
And when you're feeling good, like in preseason. I used to love preseason because you get out there, you're getting fit, you're working hard.
No pressure at the moment.
Yeah. So you always feel good, right?
Mm.
But then in season, when the pressure mounts externally, media, coach, even individual pressure that we put on ourselves, you start to feel lethargic. Sometimes you look slow. Your skills drop off. Man, it's all mental. Yeah. And that's what the Cats, and I'm not here to just talk about that. I'm just comparing. But there's a huge amount of impact that has when you free up the mental capacity and let guys feel good about themselves, that then good things happen on the training track and in games that create what looks like a huge gap. But it's not through the fact that these other teams aren't trying or working hard enough.
Everyone's working their ass off.
Man, if we keep working hard enough, the boys are going to start coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Like there's other avenues and levers to pull than just working more.
What about in the real world? You're working, as you said, construction and all that. Is it the same thing? Do you feel like sometimes they push people too hard, there should be a bit of a mental break? Because what I noticed in coming into what I call the real world is people take the piss with the Friday, Monday. Like no one's in. I mean, when you get work from home, it's like no one's in on a Monday, Friday. When I speak to certain people, so there's an element of like less is more or taking the piss. What do you think the balance is there?
Footy's a great environment to fast track leadership, management skills that you can transfer into the real world. The one thing that I probably took for granted, and you do in footy environments, is everyone there is a high performer in some way.
There's no,
but even you like someone can be jovial and take the piss, but you're still there for the greater good of the team. And how do we get the best out of me as an individual, and then how can I help the team ultimately play finals or win a flag? And sometimes that's not always there in the real world or in other workplace. And that's fine because priorities are different, man. Like people's number one priority would they be their family? Most of them are just trying to generate a paycheck to live week to week. So footy's a great environment, but you do take for granted that everyone's there driving their own career. So getting output of some people is a bit of a challenge, but also a pretty good learning experience of how to manage different people.
Yeah, really well said. Really well said. Well, let's get into it because you've had an amazing career, and I probably started the pod off a bit, bringing up 5 prelims, 5 losing prelims, but we know that you shouldn't be defined by that. And there's certainly a great little, few tips that you can kind of share. I want to dive straight into that actually before I go back to the Dogs and the players you played with and things you learned and then, how you transitioned from there to North and then finished up at the Cats. Let's just get straight into it.
Yep.
5 prelims, 5 losing prelims. I've lost one. I've lost one off my own mitts, mate. So I know exactly how it feels, all right?
I was watching that, mate. It was 14.
15.
15.
Yeah.
No, 15. Sorry, it was 15. We were playing the next night. Don't worry, I lost the next night.
That's right, because we had West Coast the next, and we could have almost played against each other. Anyway, so I know how it feels to lose one. And really, when I say lose it off my own mitts, okay? So, but 5 losing prelims at 3 different clubs. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I was lucky to go into the Dogs in footy. It's weird because it's hard to say a successful team when you don't win it, but the club was in 3 prelims in a row, so it's a pretty good effort. But I was young, like 08, 09, and then 10. You're 20, 21 thinking, this is okay, right? Like, it's going to keep playing finals all the time. 09 was really the year that we when I say could have, you're always in the mix when you're top 4. We finished top 4 each of those years, but we're probably never the top 1 or 2 teams that season. We always come up against Geelong, St Kilda, and then in 10 was Collingwood. Those 2 teams, particularly Geelong and St Kilda through the 08 and 09 had our measure. But we had some really good finals performances. And the 09 one, which was the Nick Riewoldt toe poke, we lost by a kick. That one hurt at the Dogs. That was the one where we knew we were good enough to at least make a grand final. And then you go on sort of a rebuilding phase. Plus, I had some personal injuries and health battles through that time that I wasn't then performing at the level that I was when I was younger in these final series. And then went to North Melbourne. They played in the losing prelim in 14, and then I got there at the end of 14, and we played in that prelim over in West Coast. Like, we missed a goal on the quarter time siren to go 4 or 5 goals up against West Coast in the prelim away from home. Now we were a side that wasn't blessed with superstar talent, and that's why I respect Brad Scott hugely as a coach, because during that period, probably had no right to go back-to-back prelims with the list that he had. and he was able to find a way and get the best out of it, out of the players. And then first year at the Cats, prelim, we got absolutely smoked over in Perth. It was that second COVID year where the final series went to Perth.
Who'd you play?
Melbourne. Max Gorn just had his way with us.
Right. Actually, I watched that game. I was in the stands.
Yeah, and then
he kicked 4 or something, didn't he?
Something like that.
Yeah,
mate, it was
one of the best games he's ever played.
Outrageous. Yeah. And then being a part of it in 22, which we'll touch on. So yeah, it's like you appreciate how hard it is to win the prelim, then make a grand final, and then ultimately win a grand final. So I respect the players and the teams that are able to do that. But it was, on one hand, unbelievable playing in those big games and finals. Wasn't my story, though, to win one more.
What perspective do you have on life, and what did you learn when you were on the sidelines injured in your last year as a Cat? Would have been playing, but knee injury forced you on the sidelines, and the boys get it done and win a flag.
Yeah, the irony, and we've chatted about this over a couple of beers, is that early days, touched on sort of my personality and intense around footy and training hard, but the early days at the Dogs, I don't think I would have been able to handle it if that ever happened. I'm sure I wouldn't have. And then even at North, had the appetite as a team, we just needed to win one, and I just needed to be the best player that I could be. And then your perspective changes. I came back to the Cats, already had a 2-year-old daughter that we took up to the hub. My wife and I, just before the hub, fell pregnant with twins. We had 3 kids under the age of 3. We had family support in Geelong. North were rebuilding. The Cats had put an offer to me the year prior to go back. So I engaged conversations around maybe making that possible. I think it was going to be the best outcome for North Melbourne that they could get a pick. It was going to significantly be a huge game changer for me personally with family and young kids to get back home. And the Cats thought there was still a need because they were always fight to be in the window and they add experience whenever they can. So that was great to be able to do that. And 22 still the highlight of my footy career. And I don't even know what I played in 22, probably less than a handful of games. I think I had 2 knee operations. I was pretty cooked. I couldn't physically do what mentally I wanted to be able to do. You know, that feeling. Feeling where I just tried everything and couldn't get back. I came on a sub against the Kangaroos actually at the back end of the season. I still remember running out there like I was handballing because I couldn't kick, the pain in my knee. Wow. So I went straight after that game and got surgery and wanted to have one last crack to try and get back, which was 1,000 to 1 in hindsight. But at the time, you're immersed in it and then could never get back to play. But the Cats allowed me, I worked closely with Nigel Lappin during that period of time, helping coach the forwards. And I just loved that, investing in the younger guys. And sort of it was a difficult time early when I knew I actually had a feeling all year we're going to win it. And we were building something for a long period of time in that back end of the season. So I was fighting this battle the whole time around I just want to help this club because they got me back. They looked after me personally and the family. I know they got me here to play, but I know I can't play. So I'm going to have to give something back even greater than that if I can, some way. And it was just around investing in the club and the playing group as much as I could. So the perspective then, I looked at it like, well, I could be retired and I could not be playing finals at another club right now, or I can just make the most of this opportunity of being a part of a club that is about to win a premiership or at least playing a grand final that I never got the chance to do. But seeing guys that were young, and like Max Holmes missed out with the hammy in the prelim. Yeah. So how can I complain when he's living that? Then I thought back to the 08 when I'd missed all of 2008 with an ankle reconstruction, and Rocket put faith into me and played me in a final series as a kid off the back of not playing the season at all, kicking an older guy out of the team, which I wouldn't have cared at the time because I just wanted to play. And then what are we, like 16 years later, here I am on the other end of it. So it's the cycle of footy, I think. But I love 22. I love 22 to be part of it. Like you said, lose 5, but then experience that whole week, staying in Melbourne, going to the game, being part of the pre-game. I took my 3 young kids, because I'd already retired by that stage, around on the oval, and I'm like, I'll just make the most of this, and then got to finish celebrating a flag with the boys. Guys like Jezza, who had missed out as well. Guys like, Joel winning another one, but as skipper.
Well, even Joel, when we spoke on the pod, he was like, people don't realise like the pain of how many prelims he lost. Like he's like, oh yeah, we won early days. But he's like, mate, it was so hard to get back there and win another one.
Yeah.
I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like 9-10 years. Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 11 years, wasn't it? 20, was it, they win it in 2011?
2011, that's right. And winning in 22.
And they were in a lot of losing prelims.
Yeah.
What else? What else did you learn about, I guess you turn the TV on now and it's like the guy that's commentating, it's like 3-time premiership player and Brownlow medalist and 4-time premiership player.
Yeah.
But what have you learned about premierships and teammates and friendships?
Well, everyone I've spoken to and even seeing it, still remember like chatting to coaches that have won it, Nigel Lappin, Scotty as well. Everyone always just talks about the players that they played with and the memories off field. I haven't heard too many talk about the memories on field. I would love to say, premiership player, but it sits comfortably now that I knew the one thing that why it's sort of comfortable with me now is I knew I did absolutely everything, my whole career, preparation, training, diet, extras, going overseas, seeking people outside of footy to get the best out of myself. Didn't eventuate, so that's okay. And then really when it's all said and done, no one actually cares.
No.
It's more of an individual ego thing.
Yeah, big time, isn't it?
Which, like I said, early days, don't worry, I would have been well and truly down that track. But by the end of it, it's sort of, I can just sit back and laugh at it a little bit that you get caught up in this bubble that's sort of like, who really cares?
I remember having a beer with a bloke that might have played in the Hawthorn side that I actually handed a trophy to. But I remember going like, what's it like, mate? Like, you've won a couple. And he's like, no one gives 10 years. Like he literally goes, the reunions are grouse, but no one remembers you after a couple of years. It's like on to the next team.
Yeah.
And like, he'd had a few beers and all that, and I'm not dismissing the flag. Like it'd be the greatest thing of all time.
100%.
But I think once you move on in life and you have a kid, you have your kids and you have a family and there's a next premier and everyone kind of puts their intention onto the next year. And he's like, it's not as big as you think after a few years, which is good to hear when you haven't won one.
Well, and even seeing being part of 22 and going on the celebrations, mate, it was awesome for the town, the community that I grew up with, guys there. But a couple of days later, everyone's back to work. Yeah. But I had the perspective as well of going back. I was. We all were, but I was selfish playing early days.
What do you say selfish? Like me?
No, sorry, I mean with my family.
Oh, with time.
Yep, with my time.
So like, it's all about preparation for the game day.
Yeah.
If we have to, right.
My wife did a great job with our first. Like she did everything. But when you then have twins and you've got 3 under 3 and
I'm a twin, you know.
Oh yeah,
I got a twin sister.
I should have known that.
Yeah, that's right. But like, when people say twins, I've actually had a chat to Mum.
Your parents because
well, they had 2 though, then they had like my other sisters. So you've gone 1 then twins, so you would have had your hands full. Yeah,
but it was your priorities just shift. So, it was the start of 21 when we had the twins.
Just on the twins, when was the moment like the missus goes,
"Oh, we got twins.
We're having twins," and you're and what did you say and do and think? Because you would have been in the hub. You in the hub?
Yeah, we're in the hub. The hub was crazy enough. Then I'll vividly remember. Heidi said. Now, actually, go back before that. She's got twins in the family. Like in her and her cousins, there's like 3 or 4 sets of twins. Everyone joked like, "Oh, you'll have twins." It's a laughing matter until it happens. But we were living in Queensland in the hub, and Heidi said, "I think I'm pregnant." The club docs were great. The problem is you can't go and see anyone there because we were living in prison up there. I had to fly to Adelaide to play Melbourne, who we were living with, which is another weird hub story. And yeah, long story short, Heidi had a blood test, which was meant to tell you how many weeks you are into your pregnancy. And it came back that she was 11 or 12 weeks. She called me. She said, I can't be 11 or 12 weeks. So we went to the doctor and said, we can't be 11 or 12 weeks. They said, well, if you're not 11 and 12 weeks. And she said, well, I'm sick. I should be 6. And he said, oh, maybe you've got 2. And for that moment, I knew, I bet you we're having twins. And that's all we knew. And we got permission to go get an ultrasound on the Gold Coast. So went in during the hub, and we lay down on the table. And I said to the lady doing the ultrasound, I'm sure she thinks I'm joking. I said, don't worry, we're prepared for 2. And she probably thinks that's a shit gag. I hear that every time someone comes in. Yeah. And lo and behold, there was 2 in there.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And what was your reaction then?
Well, you just run with it, don't you? And it's the best thing that ever happened.
Twins would be grouse though, wouldn't it?
A boy and a girl.
That's perfect.
And then, we had them prem the start of 21 in hospital for 8 weeks. So your whole perspective on footy, so you're trying to juggle footy when you're old and probably not performing where you need to anyway, running in and out of hospital, and then you get them home. And unfortunately, I couldn't let her do all the work like she did with the
you would have your hands
with the
full.
first, because we needed to be up feeding one at a time. But that's life, and that's why you get perspective on it all, right? Like I had a crack, it didn't work out, but I'm still pretty well off, and I had a good time doing it.
Well said, mate. Really well said. You had an amazing career, and I'll read out your stats again just so everyone reminds themselves of how good you were. But just on the twins and running around, as I don't have kids and I haven't, but I used to always speak to blokes that had kids. Michael Walters was one guy that he had kids early, and he was such a high performer, like his sprint distance and his training habits were through the roof, and he'd roll in and say he's had like an hour's sleep, and I'd be complaining about 7 or 8, and I'd always go around to the boys having kids and be like, how you going with your sleep? How were you going? Like, were you getting any? And then you're going into the club? Like, I've just quickly touched on that.
It's all relative, right? Because when you don't have kids, you think your life's busy. Then you have a dog and you go, oh, what was I doing before a dog? And then you have your first kid and then you go, my whole life's completely chaotic.
What cuts out first? No beers with the boys?
With twins?
Yeah.
Well, to be like I said, that's why selfishly, footy was always the number 1 priority. My wife did a great job with the first. But when you have 3 and there's juggling to be done, it's hard to the sleep, you don't realise at the time, but in hindsight, you're just running literally like a zombie. It's not the you're still having some hours sleep, but it's just broken sleep.
Yeah, and you probably wake up when you train. That's how I feel like when I'm tired. If you
it's
train,
like going to the club for what should be or going to be a bit of a rest. But it's like I said, there's people doing it that worse than what I was in 22.
Righto, I'm going to read out some names and let's jump in, and we'll go to the dogs first. But there's some names of players that you played with, and incredible names. You played with so many superstars, and it must be something that you fall back on. Let's go through some. Chris Grant, Brad Johnson, Luke Darcy, Scott West, Rowan Smith, Barry Hall, Acker, Coons, Griff, Bont, Libber. Let's start there with the dogs.
Yeah.
There's some superstars. Who comes to mind first?
A lot. I think the one that probably sits still at the top of the list for what he was able to do, and it's when you see him at their best. A couple of those guys who I'm sure, like I speak to old Western Bulldogs people, supporters, staff. Chris Grant's one of the greatest dogs of all time.
Better than Bont?
Well, some have him. Yeah, some do have him above Bont. Some have him equal, and maybe some now have Bont slightly ahead. But the point was, I just had Granny at the back end, so I didn't see his greatness, but I saw how he went about it, which was enough. And then, but what I saw when I was playing during that period, Brad Johnson, it's someone that's, I think he's only just a touch on 6 foot, playing at centre half forward. We didn't have a key forward at the Dogs for a lot of the time. It was like Mitch Hahn, Jono, myself, Gia.
Smooth movers.
Sort of like all of us a small forward line. And then we got Scotty Welsh in from Adelaide. And then finally got Baz in as a key forward. But Brad Johnson, pound for pound, is superstar. I mean, he was kicking All-Australian captain in 08, I think, kicking like 60 goals, averaging 25 touches. I remember games here, he kicked 6 and had 30 touches.
Yeah, he was a star.
So him in that period, he was just at the top of his game.
He looks like such a cool guy to be around. Like, he always smiling.
Always, yeah. Just a ripper guy. And then the 08 season as well, Coons winning the Brownlow.
Did he deserve it?
Yeah.
I did TV with Coons all last year, and we'd always laugh with Richo every week, live.
Richo,
be like,
he robbed him late.
Richo reckons he was robbed.
I think what caught people by surprise is that 07 as a team, we missed the finals. We're sort of not really spoken about, and then we jumped out of the blocks in 08 and we made the prelim. But Coons banked votes early. Like, he just shot clear, and then it was like, catch me if you can. So Coons there. Griff was a superstar. The 2013 season, he would have been one of the top 5 players in the competition. And then Bont and Liver I only had at the back end, but there was always something special there. Easy to say in hindsight with both of them gone on to do what they did. But people probably forget that Liver in 2014, Liver would have only been 20 or 21. He won the BNF. So I saw what he was able to do firsthand. So fortunate to play with so many great players there. I mean, there's guys also not on that list that taught me great lessons in footy. Matty Boyd, Daniel Cross, Daniel G in Syracuse. All these guys instilled the work ethic that's needed at the level and the training standards that you need.
I heard they trained their ass off, especially, all those guys you named, but was it Boydie and Crossy? I heard Crossy's real weak on the bench press, and it used to always...
I would have killed him.
Apparently it killed him because he's just the hardest worker. He just could never get the bench press going, but everything else he would just break records.
No, he's a star. Yep. And what he did, and he won't mind me saying this, but with he wasn't blessed with talent, but BNF winner, one of the great clubmen, and even guys at Melbourne said that as well. He's one of the great role models across here.
While we're on the Dogs, Barry Hall enters the building. Jason Ackermanis enters the building.
Yeah.
What kind of characters were they like around the club?
When they first came in, even when Acker first came in, he was great for the group, and he played really good footy. Now it got a bit messy late.
Just on Acker, I saw a video of him yesterday.
That was funny. Where was that?
I sent it to you in Europe. He's playing in Europe.
I think he was getting tagged.
He's getting tagged, and he's just giving this guy one in the back, and he's been sent off. Like he's still out there working on his craft.
Yeah,
it's crazy, but
and he still would have been best on if you ask him. So
I had to bring that up because I feel like Acker will play. He's going to play to his 80, isn't he? Like, he just loves it.
That was funny. Yeah.
But back to what you were saying.
And Baz is a legend. He, you can see why he was captain. He came in. He took all the guys under his wing. He would treat someone in his, and we're talking a premiership captain and one of the great forwards that Sydney had by the time he came to the Dogs. So he looked after all the boys, would love having a beer with the boys, but genuine team guy. And he had an unbelievable season when he played. I think he got best on in the old NAB Cup when we won it in 2010, but he was kicking goals, and a lot of them as a, I don't know what he then, 33, 34-year-old.
Were you at North or Dogs when he put Alex Silvani in that headlock? Was it Alex Silvani? Scotty Thompson.
No, Scotty Thompson.
He's put 2 in them though. I remember
I was playing for the Dogs with Baz when he put Scooter in the headlock.
Well, you would have been right around the stoppage, wouldn't you?
I remember talking to. I mean, I've spoken to Scotty post that, and he said like he was close. He was close to dying.
He didn't let go for
no, and he wasn't letting go.
45 seconds.
No, he wasn't letting.
Was
go.
he a hothead at training?
Nah, not really.
Real calm.
Yeah.
Was he intimidating? First off,
not around the boys. I mean, he's
just on game
he was
day?
A big teddy bear. You knew that if you went out with Baz, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted because he'd be the first in.
What about when he's boxing? This is just my brain's just going here. But growing up, me as a kid, all we would hear is he could have been a boxer or football, and he chose football.
Yep.
And then he's had a couple of professional fights afterwards, and he's kind of hasn't really performed as well as what you'd been hyped up to, but he's also a bit older. Do you put that down to age or? Because he kind of
Well, I don't know.
he's been
but-
knocked out a couple of times.
Yeah, but that's like you can still handle yourself and get knocked down in the ring.
He absolutely shit
He
mixed
had
me.
Danny Green came down with a young guy, and Baz got in the ring in front of all of us, and boxed with I can't remember the guy's name at the Dogs. Oh, trust me, I'm not going anywhere near that if he's in there.
Was he way sharper back then than when you've seen him on tally?
Yeah, I think he's still sharp. I mean, he's 40 odd now.
He's still knocked the living shit.
I'm going
out
to tell
most
him that
blokes.
you're telling me he's
No.
good.
I just thought he'd absolutely, because I always thought he'd be our AFL pin-up.
Yeah.
And then whoever the NRL or whatever other leagues have, like, let's go.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't been the case. But it is much. He's not in his prime.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd ask you because you would have seen him throwing him at training.
Yeah, no, he can throw him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Baz, I love you, mate, by the way. Let me cut this out so Baz doesn't come for me. But he is one of the most intimidating guys to step on the field. Well, let's go. Why did you, while we're on the Dogs, like, you mainly small forward?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, a little bit of high half forward coming up, but I mainly played as a forward at the Dogs, particularly under Rocket and when we were playing well as a team.
Were you in the game when Rocket's the Minson clip? Were you playing in that?
I probably would have been, yeah.
Was Rocket was he a hothead?
Yeah, that spray, it gets circulated with all the old Dogs boys in a WhatsApp group, and Will will probably hate me saying this, but Will's in it as well, and he doesn't like that footage, so I'll be respectful around and that audio around Will. But
does he not like it?
No. But that's not even the worst we heard. So for all of us, it was like, that's okay, yeah.
I think everyone's heard the same kind of spell. It just hasn't
I've heard a lot worse than that.
Who filmed it, man?
I don't know how that got out.
But that's the one thing I was thinking about when the clip went, because like Leon Cameron was coaching me at the Giants when I reckon someone played it in a team meeting, like for a laugh, or someone brought it up in the locker room.
Funny in that, Leon.
Yeah. Rocket. And I just remember like thinking, who the fuck's like filming this? Because the phones weren't that handy back in the day. Like,
it would
the
have
voice
been.
recording.
It would have been out of computer audio somewhere.
Yeah, someone's done the dodgy. But
you never know, mate.
He was a real intelligent guy, they reckon. But yeah, Rocket. Back to Rocket. Just quickly on him. Rocket versus, Scotty.
Yeah. Well, it's footy's changed a lot. So I started in 05. Drafted in 05. To then finishing in 22, it's like across 3 decades, and footy, I'm sure, hasn't changed as much as it did during that period, particularly coaching. The coaching is now the new age coach of what we were talking around, Tommy, do you want to do weights now or should we do it later? What's the best program for you, Matt? If that was unheard of in the 2000s, it was like, I still remember, I didn't say a word for the first 12 months, I'm sure. I was just getting there, train, looking up to these guys, copping a spray. Pre-season was everyone just did this until you couldn't do it anymore, and that was it.
You think we're a bit soft now with the young guys, though? Like, do you reckon it's gone too far?
I'm not sure.
But you're a coach. Say you're head coach.
Footy's still as hard, I think, physically as it's ever been. So, and the behind the goals, mate, and no one was joining in defensively like the requirements are today. So I get the whole footy was better yesteryear, but I'm all for the modern day footballer and how hard it is, and love the game, and the game evolves, and where we are now is in a great place. There's some things we can tweak, but that's okay. There's always those things. But I don't think the modern player from yesteryear gets enough credit, or the credit that they deserve. But anyway, that's my pump up for the modern day player.
What's the most useless thing you used to do at the Dogs? Like back in
That's
that
a
old,
good
you know what I mean? Like stuff you look back and go, what an absolute load of shit that was. You know what I mean? Like, all right, boys, like it's punishment time or whatever it is.
So the big thing, and I was a part of this, is leadership groups, but the whole punishment of guys not doing certain things is, I think it still happens to, I know it still happens today, but that's sort of yesteryear from what I've experienced in the last 4 or 5 years. None of that would take place now.
Yeah.
Wasting time in meetings talking about things that just are so irrelevant.
Yeah.
There was a lot of time wasting.
A lot of meetings back then?
Yeah.
Was the footage, was it just...
Even leadership meetings and talking about issues of guys, because everyone should fit the mold of what I thought should be. Yeah, where like I said, it's sort of why it's reshaped my thinking around how different guys can be coached now, is that that new age approach can have great benefit.
Quick fire on this. What are the biggest changes from 2026 to now? Just what's one big change?
2006 to now.
Yep. Game plan wise, I'm talking. This is for the purist.
Defensively.
Defensive.
Yep.
So that's the camera stuff.
Yeah. Also, the camera highlights it, but the buy-in defensively from players and the defensive system and formation and structure that's required now wasn't happening back then.
What would you bring back from the old day to bring into the new day?
Oh. What I'd love to see. Yeah. I mean, you'd love to. We all still love when key forwards kicks bags a goal.
Yep.
I'm not sure how we could ever replicate that again. But seeing Jez like on the weekend kick a bag, or Hawk last year kick a bag, it's still a great part of the game that we don't want to lose.
Like the old school 1 forward in the goal square.
I mean, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just go like.
Well, as a defender, I just think
good luck with him for the next 2 hours, but we're not going to put any help around you. We're just going to let you.
How dumb were the coaches back in the day? I mean,
get 14 kicked on you.
Hang on a second, we've got Matty Lloyd one out with Prestigiacomo. We won't roll someone back to stand. I mean, you wouldn't want to stand in the hole though. They probably did, but wouldn't. Yeah, it's
seen you run straight through.
That's very good. I had one more question there. Oh, what's something you've noticed that hasn't changed when it comes to the purest of the game? Like when you rock up game day now and when you used to rock up, the one thing that you still see on the whiteboard that you go, yep, that's just classic football.
Yeah. Well, the pressure. The one thing that I love now that I think we got away from in the middle part of my career is that I can't remember the couple of years, but it transitioned the game, the flavour of the month became this athlete and away from the footballer.
Yeah.
And I think in modern day football, there's just no substitute for someone that's got great footy knowledge, can use the footy and win the footy.
Yeah.
And I think we're back there. Like there's guys now that are guns of the competition that maybe 10 years ago we would have said, the game's just going to move past him.
He's not fit enough. He can't work both ways. Where you're saying, I'd rather take a guy that when we get it on transition, he gets it, he can use it, his decision-making, like he's a pure footballer.
Yeah.
Which means the height thing comes into it as well. Like, I remember when I was getting drafted, it's like, too small. Now it's like, it doesn't matter what size you are.
100%.
If you can put pressure on, you can use it, make good decisions, and you're smart enough to play defensive transition.
And I think that's a great thing around the coaches now as well. Well, my experience with coaching now is that a game plan and a system and an environment is set up to get the best out of Tommy as it is to get the best out of Danger, as it would be if Caleb Daniel was in the team, who's the shortest player in the comp. We can play to the strengths of each one of these players. And if your strength's winning the ball and you're not that great in transition, okay, well, we can set that up to still maximise that strength. Where early days, it was like, you'll just cop it for not transitioning.
Yeah, because everyone's moulded to the same kind of, you need to be as good as Danger at winning the contested nut. And you need to be able to spread like Stephen Hill. Like, it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
Righto, why'd you leave the Dogs?
Yeah, so the Dogs, I was a free agent at the time. I missed all of 2013 with a navicular. I had surgery on my navicular, missed 12 months of footy. I had a number of other injuries at that time. There was a change in coach, really lost the enjoyment of footy. And I just really I didn't feel like I was able to, I had high expectations of what I wanted to achieve, and didn't think I could do that in that environment, and just needed a change. I was at the crossroads, like, what was I, probably 26 at the time, been around at the Dogs for 9 years, had no intentions of leaving at all through my time at the Dogs. But it got to a stage where I felt that I needed that change, reignite that flame and the passion and love for footy. Only ever met with one club, and that was North and Brad. And straight away I knew that was the fit for me.
Love it. What was going through your head when you did that? Was it more like, I need a fresh start? What did Brad say to you that was like, maybe this is like for me? And was it something that's like, this is going to reinvigorate me?
It was that coaching style of how do we get the best out of you? How can we play to your strengths? There's always minimums that you need to achieve in all facets of the game. So it's not like, you don't have to do that. But he saw what I thought I could add value to a team, playing through the midfield and up forward and using some of my strengths aligned with what he saw. And I'd sort of had 2 years before that where that wasn't happening.
You kind of said to me, it was almost like a sliding doors moment because you weren't far off just wrapping it up.
Yeah, well, I always had the passion to keep playing, but I wasn't playing that well at the time at the back end of the Dogs. Like I said, 12 months out of footy with a naviculars end people's careers and have done. So that's a bit of a wake-up call that, okay, you're great excitement early on in my career at the Dogs, playing finals, playing good footy, dropped away. Are you going to make a career of this? Okay, if I am, let's go somewhere and have another crack at it. And great, one of the best decisions I made in footy because I just loved my time at North Melbourne, met some unbelievable guys, teammates, was able to play some of the footy that I wanted to play, and then ultimately led me to the story around playing at the Cats as well and playing under both Scott brothers. So it's been a pretty good journey.
Does it hurt you seeing North struggle for so long since you've left?
Yeah. It's I've got great mates, as you know.
Because
there'll be a bit of dirt coming up. And the guys that were there when I was there, Luke McDonald, Jai, Larks, Cam Zerha, some of those guys they were at the club, but they didn't get to play when we were winning games of footy and playing finals. And then when they started playing, they just haven't had the opportunity. And I know what we're talking about, their training isn't working just as hard as anyone. The time that's spent and committed to the club, even them re-signing at the club and buying in, the wheel is turning. I'm sure they'll get the rewards that they're after. But it's the sliding doors in footy, right, too, because you could easily have gone to another club and played finals for the last 8 years. That's sort of the irony around footy and sometimes the lottery that we're in. So those guys deserve a bit of a change of luck, and I'm sure in the next 18 months they'll get it.
Dennis Pagan addresses the group last week. You were there.
Yep.
All the superstars were there. In fact, it was a great reminder of how many legends there have been at North Melbourne. Yep. I loved his speech, how he goes, some of you blokes owe us after last week's kind of piss week performance. And he, war without weapons still, that stands out. But like, there's a bit of passion in that, right? And I just think, I don't know whether it's a sugar fix, you can't do it every week. But the boys responded. Like Larky's kicked nearly 5 in the first quarter. Like he kicked 4, but probably should have kicked 5. Yeah. They were up and about. Their pressure's amazing. They're playing a good opposition. Obviously, they fade out in the back end of the game. But you don't mind seeing that. You don't mind seeing them go hard. It's when they get blown out early and get smoked. What is it with a young group that you think they lack week to week? Because I see North Melbourne and I go, if you're a member, like, get ready. It's coming. Like, same with Essendon. It's coming. Probably North's more advanced, actually. I feel like they've got these players. They get a couple more in and they are ready to go. But they just haven't clicked yet. What is it?
I'm not sure. I'm sure it's the art of coaching, right? The balancing act that Clarko would have down pat, huge experience. But I think some of it comes back to what we were chatting around before, so from week to week, they haven't found more talent to get smashed the week before and then come out and be really competitive against who I think is one of the better teams in the competition in the Western Bulldogs. Shows that the talent's there. So there's something mentally that frees them up, and that energy and excitement, enthusiasm, bit to the point earlier, right? You can get better outcomes there than you do by feeling like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and the pressure and the walls are about to cave in. So it's a fine balancing act between what do we need to know, what do we need to double down on and do extra work on, and then on the flip side, what do we actually just need to free these guys up a little bit and enable them to play to their strengths and let Larks go to work. And I don't know, that feeling even out on the ground, I'm sure that they would have just loved that emotion. And it takes you back to when you first played or your junior days. Like, you've got to recapture some of that feeling that you used to just run out in junior footy. You would have ran out thinking, I could just kick 10 here today.
Yeah.
And
you're just having fun.
And good things happen off the back of that.
Now, some more names. Del Santo, Brent Harvey, Daniel Wells. Geez, he was a gun. Cunnington, Goldie. There's plenty more that I've missed, but they're more the older guys. Talk to me about some of them. Any funny stories? Who was the hardest worker? I know Nicky Dell quite well through a few of the boys. He's a great guy, smooth mover as well. He kind of joined North at the back end of his career. You had a lot of smooth, had a lot of smooth movers there.
Yeah, Dell was a ripper to have around the club. Loves the boys. To the stories we were talking around, what you love and miss from footy. Dell's those sort of guys. Yeah. He just feeds off the energy, and the energy of the group feeds off Dell. So great to become really good mates with him when I was at the Roos. The one thing that stood out at the Roos, and I only until you said his name, Daniel Wells in pre-season. I still remember he did a whole pre-season in runners. He'd do like match play in runners. Guys are falling over in footy boots. He'd never lost his footing. No one could lay a glove on him. I'm like, this guy's going to win the next 3 Brownlow medals. He was unbelievable. Just couldn't get his body right in season. But
is that why he wore the runners? So he was break down?
Maybe because he's just too much.
I heard Gary Ablett did that.
Yeah. These guys, man.
That's like impossible for anyone that doesn't understand. It's hard to change direction in runners when blokes have got boots on. Maybe that's why he was so agile, because he trained in runners.
Yeah, I think he was just that much better than everyone else.
We used to tag him. So Ross's philosophy was tag the guy that can hurt you. Yeah. So you guys had great ball winners, but he was the guy that would break the line. So and you always would put him on the wing, because I'd play wing, and it was a nightmare because the defensive. This is the kind of stuff we would prepare for. So Wells would start on the wing or half forward, and back then you could have more than six. It wasn't
7 behind the ball. Yeah.
And he would flip in, but then he would flip out, and he would always flip out once he felt like Crowley or Clancy Pearce would go to him. Yep. And then as a winger, you had to fill the spot he's coming from. So he'd always come from half forward, mid, wing, and you'd be running around.
Thrown all over the
and then
place.
Obviously on footage, like we're reviewing the footage, like, where the fuck's the wingman? Why aren't you in your cover roll? Or why haven't you gone to the half back and pushed him in? And you're like, mate, and you're trying to play footy whilst this is going on. And I just still remember just how much work we would put into Daniel Wells.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he caught me by surprise. Yeah. Didn't have a good run with injuries when I was there. I actually didn't get to play too much footy with him at all. Then he went to Collingwood. The other names there, one of my favourite teammates in 17 years is Cunners. Like, just a ripper teammate. The best player inside, clean hands.
Him or Libba?
Well, Libba was young when I was there. Yeah. So, Cunners for a longer period of time.
He's a beast, wasn't he? Contested.
Unbelievable. And he just, like, he was great for me. He
fed it to you.
looked after me, mate. Goldie to Cunners handball to me, and it was but he would always didn't want any acknowledgement, accolades. Not the world's greatest transition player, as we'd know. So
get a wingman to see that out.
Yeah. Well, I used to, early days, I would be the half forward coming up at North in my first year when there wasn't 666, and Cunners had the license just to do centre bounce and drift forward. So then, as long as I came up and did some transition work for him, he would give me the ball. So it was a pretty good deal.
That's brilliant. That's the kind of stuff that you build, that chemistry when you're going well, I reckon. It's like the little teams within a team. It's like you and Cunners on the same page. Other teams aren't aware of it. What about, can you believe Goldie's still running around?
Unbelievable. We're the same age.
Really?
So, yeah. So
How
I
old
think
are you now?
he'll be, how old am I? 37.
37.
Yeah.
How many more years has Big Goldie got?
Oh, man. Ruckman just keep going.
But Ruckman, he's body
now, in fairness, I don't think that it was by design that he'd play as much as he has this year. Mm-hmm. But credit to him at Essendon with the foresight of, okay, he wanted to contribute in coaching or playing VFL. And if he needed to be a backup, then look what happens. It's been a pretty good outcome for them because they've been riddled with injuries. But Goldie, man, he's a marvel, underestimated and underrated as well because not one of the big 4 teams in Melbourne. But he was he's one of the best ruckmen of the generation. Yeah,
I got to ask you about the Dogs, but I'll go back to the Dogs. I'll stay here. What was the best goal or best passage of play you ever had at North?
I mean, is this a loaded question?
No, I don't have. I just know that, and this isn't a time to be humble.
Oh, right.
I want you to what's the one moment that stands out for you?
Oh, man, you put me on the spotty. I don't like answering.
We all remember.
Well, one of the best goals is I kicked a dribble goal at Marvel one day against Fremantle. When did you finish for Freo?
2018 was my last year.
Might have been there.
Yeah, it would have.
I'm surprised you. That's disappointing. It mightn't have been that good if you can't remember.
Maybe it was on me. Maybe I got dropped because of it. or delisted.
One of the highlights at North, though, was first year we finished 5th, played Richmond in the elimination final. We finished 8th, Richmond finished 5th. Kicked a goal late in that game, and MCG packed of Richmond supporters. That was a highlight.
Beautiful. I'm looking forward to clipping that one up. What about your welcome to the league moment when you're at the Dogs? What was the moment where you're like, whoa?
Probably my first final series in 2008. I missed all season with a ankle reconstruction, so it was pretty flattening. And then just the whole year, I was like, whatever I do, the team was in the top 4. I'm young. I'm like, I'm just playing finals. And it got late in the year, and I hadn't played since round 2. And just young and naive, like 19-year-old. Who do you think? Yeah, I think you just come back into a team. And then convinced Rocket to play me. I started as a defensive forward in the first final on Luke Hodge, actually. We lost to Hawthorn, but I played okay. The next final, we played Sydney, and Ty Canali was a gun at that stage. So Rocket's like, I just need you to play defensive forward. I'm like, I'll do whatever I need to do to get a game. Played on him. And then in the prelim, so we won that. And then in the prelim, during the season, we played Geelong, and Darren Milburn had like 19 touches in the first quarter. Absolutely killed us down at Kidinia Park. And I was living with Lindsay Gilby at that stage.
Oh, and what a leg he had. We probably should have mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, I should have. He'll be flat that I didn't, but I will now. Living with Gilbs, and I had the job of tagging Darren Milburn. And Lindsay was playing halfback, as you know. Best kick that the game's
changed the whole game from kick-ins.
Yeah, one of the best kicks the game's ever seen. And then he just hit me up in the first quarter. Anytime he was going forward, he knew that pretty much we'd spoken about, like, I'll just play on Milburn. If you get the ball, just put it just outside, and he's not going to think that I'm going for it. So I was young, had 5 shots a goal in the first quarter of a prelim. Now, there's a funny story about that because 2-2 and 1 out on the full, I think. Don't worry, it sort of finished at quarter time, and someone joked after it that Rocket, and going back on Rocket spray. So I come in at quarter time like, this is unbelievable. And then by about halfway through the last quarter, Rocket's like, where the f***'s Hugo gone? I don't know what happened, but I probably only finished with the same amount of kicks as I had at quarter time.
When you get a couple of sausages early, not that I had a couple, but if you got one, you're going, oh, geez,
I could be in for 8 here.
And then you really slow up, don't you?
Yeah.
That's a great story. Well, we kind of spoke about why you left and went to the Cats and dived in there. But the one thing that I wanted to talk to you about was you played over 3 decades of football. You've played at different clubs, cultures, coaches, players. You've seen footy change. Who did the best footy trips?
Oh.
And who has the best beer? Like when I say the best beer, like just always gets together and you've enjoyed your beers with your teammates.
Yeah. Individual. Well, I'll start from the start. So at the Bulldogs, 9 years, 9 footy trips. Actually, I missed one. I had a knee op. It must have been 2012, I think. 2012. So I couldn't go on that. But other than that, was footy trips every year.
Were you the one in Hong Kong when someo's carrying on?
Yeah, Coons got in a little bit of strife.
Was it Coons, was it?
Yeah.
What was he doing?
It was all harmless. He slid down the hill on a esky lid. The issue was he was only, I think, about 6 days post-surgery of his knee, which the club wasn't wrapped in. But going away there, sometimes we had like 30, 35 guys, sometimes 15.
Can't do it anymore, can you?
No, and that finished up. North Melbourne had a culture, I'm sure, that they carried through the tradition of the 90s and into the 2000s. But post-season, like they just have tradition literally every minute. So every day it's planned. And it was the same for the 6 years that I was there.
Oh, so you'd have one?
So not a footy trip, but the 4 days post-season was just like scripted and they just kept rolling out. And I reckon they've been rolling out for the last 40 years. Just pubs around North Melbourne.
So you just hit the same pubs, different days.
You know where you are on that Sunday, you know where you are on the Monday, you know where you are Monday night, Tuesday.
Yeah.
So they have good stamina in drinking. Nothing too out of control, but just drink beer for like days on end.
I remember one year we finished up on a Friday night. That was the hardest Mad Monday week because you just
that's brutal, isn't it?
Friday night, Saturday night, and then it's like, oh, where are you, week bastard? Come have a beer Sunday, and then it's like, oh, guess what? You're a first year, second year player. Mad Monday.
Mad Monday, you're going to be
zip tie with this bloke and just keep drinking until you.
We should have touched on that earlier, but those days have changed too. Like, and to be honest, I'm sort of thankful. I'm not the.
It's like a
the
Bucks party now.
I'm not the party animal, but and the Cats is a very different philosophy. Maybe because we're all old. When I was there, but it was sit around, enjoy each other's company, have a few beers, a few glasses of red, whatever it is. Still have good fun. Maybe get back to Jez's man cave, and
doesn't get any better.
Doesn't get any better than that.
Just talking about some Cats: Selwood, Hawkins, Jezza, Danger, Stewart, Duncan, Blitz. I could name them all the coaches that you've met, Scotty as the head coach, all those other players I've mentioned before. Like, what is it with these superstars? What is it with all of them that are such high performers that you look at and go, they've all got something in common? What is it?
Yeah, across the entire 3 clubs, you look at. I was fortunate out of that, and then thinking about it, the games record holder at each club I got to play with. So to see that across 3 clubs, I was fortunate to be able to do that. But like Jono, Boomer, Joel, they all just had this competitive appetite, like dogged appetite around the contest and being the best they can be, and doing the work. There's no secret. The best players are normally the ones that do the most work.
But the contest thing's interesting, like being the best in the contest.
They're just competitors, yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Be a competitor. I was more of a lane 8 operator, mate.
Oh, mate, brother. The game caters for all.
It does. I'm looking forward to this. This is one of the, you come on the podcast, I always
need to have a water.
Have a little glass of water. I always give a pair of sunglasses to my guests. Rick's Eyewear here, my sunglass brand, as you know. We have all different shapes and sizes when it comes to sunglasses. And I'd like to give you the Soho Large in cherry. But before I do, I'm a little nervous. There is a lot of rumours going around. I've got Almac here, and you can try them on while I do it. But he says he cops a lot of shit about the size of his head, but it's honestly massive. He generally blocks people out in photos, and no hats fit him. So just on the hat, I've got you a hat as well. Genius. I've got you a hat that you can go home with later. This one's for you later. But I want you to, before you try the sunglasses on, he reckons you've got a custom headset on the Geelong sidelines when you're coaching game day. Is that true?
It's not custom, but I'll tell you right now, I explore the full length of the size of the headset, but mate, the irony in the head, and I get it, right? Almac, he hasn't got a wide range of humour, but I've had a big head since the day I was born, and so it's not new to me. I actually enjoy the banter that it creates, but I think it's not surprisingly big, but it's big. I'm sure you know that.
I'm nervous because I'm like, when you...
No, the one thing that I'll say for the Rixies, as you know, because I have put an order in on the large Sohos before. Oh, yeah. My top drawer in my bedroom's full of sunglasses, particularly ones that I have ordered online, and none of them fit.
None.
So these are built for a big pill. I'm probably stretching them still at the moment.
No, they look flush. They're flush.
Anyway, you've done a good job because you cater to the big heads.
I get nervous when there's rumours of a big head. Can you take me seriously in this hat? Or
I'm taking that with you. That's going to be a snug fit.
That's a big shout out to our mates there. But Big Hat Australia, they are some Riddle boys. But they reckon that custom headset, and Fox Footy back in the day actually measured all the big heads.
Mm.
Where did you rank with the big heads?
No, I was up there.
Imagine they did
two funny head measure off stories. Start with the Fox Footy one. They were doing the bounce early days, and I think it was Spud was talking around the big heads in the competition and wanted to have a head off and they measured everyone's head. And I had Fox Footy come to the Dogs and measure my head. It was myself, Brett Ebert,
Oh, yeah.
BT, Brad Ottens, who was known as the Pill, had a seriously big head. There was a few other, Andrew Gaze. They measured Gazy because he had a big head.
He had a big head, Gazy.
And I'm happy for you to dig up the records, but I believe I was second to BT.
Wow.
Which is, if I ever pass BT, we've got issues.
BT fits the large Rixies as well, so I'm glad. He does have a big pill though, BT.
It was big.
We'll have to dig up the measurements. I do remember them measuring a few people.
Yeah.
That is gold. Just what else is it about having a big head? Like, is it true that you can't fit into a hat?
I rarely wear hats. I can't wear beanies.
Is it like literally beanies don't fit?
Oh, they're tight, and it's a shocking.
They're
look.
annoying anyway. Beanies.
It's a shocking.
Even hats, I don't really like.
There's got to be the right style hat. There's some hats. That hat would probably be okay.
Mate, this is actually tight because it's got like maybe if I take if you see it on the inside.
Yeah, don't give it to me then because that won't fit.
Got to take the inside out, and it might fit you.
That is funny.
Right, I keep them on. I got another one, a couple more. So, is it true? But apparently, you hated being pale in winter. So he goes, ask him. This is another bit of mail from one of the boys. Ask him about early days at the Dogs. About his tanning moisturiser he'd put on himself the night before a prime time game, so he looked tanned.
No, that's mayo on that. But there was some. I mean, you would have fitted in this boat, but there was a couple of mid 2000 sessions to the solarium, which I think was standard for most AFL players.
I've done one before.
I think I did too.
Prime time only though.
Oh, if it's a big final, it doesn't hurt.
He reckons there was one day where you were absolutely glowing on prime time.
Behave.
He reckons you overdid it with the moisturiser with the solarium.
That is funny.
Who'd you go to the solarium with? Who was just solid buddy?
No. Honestly, I think it would have been 2 sessions. Mate. Young and silly. I don't recommend or condone that at all.
No, I think they're banned anyway. Let's revisit 2017 pre-season. There's a play off the ball. A good friend of yours, Lukey McDonald, is playing on you at training. Pre-season, it's in January, and he's checked you off ball. You're not even looking. You've just caught him with the fingertips and just given him a little bit of how you going on the ground. But you guys are great mates. Is he the most annoying teammate, and is he the one guy you hated playing on at training, or did you love playing on him?
I probably love playing on him because if you needed to get your confidence up, it's nice to play on Lukey. But no, he's a good mate. But that session, in the end, it worked out well for me. The vision says that I got him, but he caught me off guard, man. It's like 100 metres off the ball in January. Like, we all just want to feel good about ourselves here, get a few kicks. He thinks he's a tough guy, so he wanted to hit me off ball. And he did. I should have went to ground, and I reached my arm out because I had no idea what it was, and I hooked onto his jumper, which stopped me from falling over, and I realised it was him. And once it was him, I was like, that's it. He's going down. And he just needs a check every now and again.
Put him back in his box, as you'd say?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Who was the guys that your most annoying teammate at the Dogs? Give me really quickly. Dogs, Kangas, Geelong?
Oh, man.
Or the toughest teammate to play on, if we want to keep it more lighthearted.
No, there's got so Almac's great for culture, but he just doesn't shut up.
Yeah.
So him. At the Dogs, Griff was the best mate at the Dogs, but he just refused to do any cooking and basically treated my house, which I never lived with him for very good reasons. But I'm sure for the best part of 4 years, he just thought I was his personal chef. I had a locker next to Parfy, Brendan Parford. Yep. He used to hang his jocks up all the time. Like, you know those guys that just...
all wet?
Mate.
Let's get into the locker room. Right? Is there anything worse than blokes that shower, and they then get their wet undies and footy shorts and they put it in the back bit of their backpack, right? And I got to, we're going to name him Aiden Bonner, mate. Oh, you played with
Bond.
Yeah, I know you played with Bond. Bond was my locker buddy at the Giants, and I go, what is this pooch? Like you've got yesterday's like dirty,
Still just
pre-season shorts that are all
fermenting
like
in the
wet,
bag,
sweaty, just fermenting, and I'm like, it stinks. Yeah. And he had the dreadies. I remember when he shaved the dreadies and he started cleaning up his act, and then he got the big contract.
Mate, there's only one solution. It's wet gear in the ice bags that used to fill up.
Yeah,
wet gear in there. Straight out.
And then in the wash that
But
night.
there were some filthy animals.
Oh, there's some filth going around in the locker room.
Yeah.
Who was the filthiest?
No, we won't go there.
He's not going to throw anyone under. That's a loyalty test. That's how good of a bloke Higo is. Mate, that's all I've got. I mean, we could sit here for hours. Mate, you've got to get home to the kids. But like, as I said, I mean, it's great to break it down. The one thing that I've learned with meeting you is just, it was cool to connect over the fact that we probably measure ourselves on premierships. And I know I never got one and you never got one, but then understanding how many friendships you get out of football. And that's what a lot of people measure themselves on once it's all said and done. And it's great to see you back at footy. All the Cats boys love you. And again, I was a bit younger when you were playing, I think, at the Dogs. And I just remember just sausages and a smooth mover. And we're lucky enough to play against you. But to play for 15, 16, how many years did you play? 17 years, 260 games, 229 snags. Like, it's an incredible career, and it's good to see you giving back as well. So, mate, thanks so much for your time and jumping on the potty. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Tommy.
Appreciate it. And I really appreciate everyone that gets around this one. If you can leave a comment, let us know what you loved. Higo can read them on YouTube. I can as well. Let us know what you want us to ask more of. But yeah, really appreciate everyone's support and Higo jumping on, and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you same time next week right here on American Aces. Cheers. Aces, I know that's the end of the show, but here's a shameless plug for Ricks. It doesn't come without great value. Use our discount code ACES to get 20% off site-wide on us. And don't be worried about shopping eyewear online. We'll give you our 90-day free return policy just in case they're not the perfect fit. Head over to rickseyewear.com.au and find your fit today.
A lot of raised eyebrows when I hired Gary as my new bodyguard. But the guy really offers something unique. Just like the PointsBet app. It's all about offering something different, like a better, faster way to bet on all your favorite sports.
She's good to go, mate.
PointsBet, built different.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.